Oh, hey, did you hear that Elden Ring Tarnished Edition for the Nintendo Switch 2 Bird Breasts is getting delayed until sometime in 2026? Nintendo Switch 2, it's the console that you have to port beg on. Bird Breasts.
I just wanted some sauce on those zingers.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know the drill. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and give it a thumbs up. It helps in the algorithm. Also, I will be streaming at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Halloween, October 31st, this Friday. I'll have a mullet on here and we'll be having a good time. So make sure you come check out my Halloween stream this Friday at 8 p.m. I'll see you there. So look, no matter how I feel about the Nintendo Switch 2, I can't deny that it's selling really well. They're saying it's about over 9 million units sold worldwide. It just came out this June. And for the same time period with the original Switch, the Switch 2 is 77% ahead of it sales-wise. So flaws with Nintendo and their console aside, I would be a liar to say that the system is not selling well. But there's one caveat with that is interesting, and I think I know why, is that third-party games aren't doing great. Now, there hasn't been an update recently with third-party games in terms of how they're selling, but when the system launched, they weren't selling well. This comes from thegamebusiness.com. I'll read it to you, then we'll discuss. Although third-party publishers appear to have done slightly better during the launch of the Switch 2 compared to the Switch 1, it's hard to describe these statistics as positive. Most third-party Switch 2 games posted very low numbers. One third-party publisher characterized these numbers as below our lowest estimates, despite strong hardware sales. Now again, this is mid-June. Times may have changed, but, you know, I think it's indicative of how people feel about the Switch 2 when it comes to third-party games, because they could play those third-party games on the go in many other ways. Hi, everyone. This is Rich editing this in post. One thing I forgot to bring up here, too, is there's a lot of reports that people are very unhappy with the Nintendo Switch 2 game key cards, which is essentially a physical license of the game, and you still have to download it, and that's a big turnoff to people. I don't really know how much that would have swayed sales numbers for the third-party games either way, but yeah, the game key cards are very unpopular, so I just wanted to throw that in there. Now let's talk about Elden Ring for the Nintendo Switch 2. It's going to be Elden Ring Tarnished Edition. Now, they showed off some gameplay recently at Gamescom, and there were many people saying there were performance issues. I saw some of the gameplay. There was some gameplay where the performance did seem crappy, but there was other gameplay where the performance seemed okay, but I called it Elden Ring Tarnished Edition, Sahara Desert Edition, because there was very little vegetation. That's what struck out to me. Like, there was almost no grass. So I wasn't thrilled with how the port looked. Well, I guess From Software wasn't thrilled with how the port looked on the Switch 2 because it is being delayed until 2026. Nintendo Switch 2 players looking forward to venturing through the lands between are going to wait a bit longer. From Software announced on Thursday that Elden Ring Tarnished Edition is being delayed from its 2025 release window to sometime next year. The studio notes that while development on the Nintendo Switch 2 port continues wholeheartedly towards release, From Software has decided to move the launch to 2026 to allow time for performance adjustments, which Lord knows it needed. According to a post on X from the Elden Ring account, we apologize to players looking forward to the game and thank you for your patience and support. So from a glass half full perspective, good. I'm glad they're delaying the game, even if it's a port for the Switch 2 Elden Ring, and you could play it a billion other ways portably right now. We'll get into that. I'd rather have a port come out or an original IP come out in a good, solid working state with minimal bugs and have the game come out and run like crap, like Elden Ring is kind of doing right now in the Switch 2. And I'd also like it to have a little bit more vegetation, just a little bit. So whatever. I'd rather the game be delayed. But this ties into my fundamental problem with the Switch 2 compared to the Switch 1. When the Switch 1 came out, it was the only show in town doing what it was doing, where you can have AAA games on the go. I remember when Doom 2016 came to the original Switch, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, how the hell are they doing this? What sorcery are they doing to get Doom 2016 running on a tablet with two controllers attached to it, because the idea of a hybrid console like that was very novel in 2017. We're going back almost a decade now. I mean, GPD Win, who makes awesome handhelds now, but back then they had their first GPD Win, and it was powered by an Intel Atom processor. I barely got the original Dead Space to run on it at medium settings at 720p, and it just stayed around 30 FPS. So times were much different. Now, there are plenty of ways to play third-party games, and you don't have to port bag on the Switch 2 to get them. You could buy a LCD Steam Deck for actually cheaper than the Switch 2 costs, and you could have played Elden Ring on there when they first launched the Steam Deck back in 2022. Yeah, I had to double check the date to make sure I had the right year. February of 2022. The Steam Deck is over 3 years old. Oh my God. Anyway, but you get my point. When the first Switch came out, to play games like Doom 2016, it was the only show in town. Now it's different. You don't have to wait until 2026 to play Elden Ring on the go. There are many portable ways that you could play it right now that are about the same price as a Switch 2. And like I said, if you get the LCD Steam Deck, somewhat cheaper. So why would you wait for the Switch 2 version of a game? This is the problem with the Switch 2 right now, is that back when 2017, when the first Switch launched, having third-party games on the go, like Elden Ring, was a mind-blowing idea, and there wasn't other options to play those games on the go. Now it's completely different. So to sit there and wait for Elden Ring to come to the Switch 2 or any other third-party game is nonsensical. Here's the thing. I don't have a portable console like my GPD Win Mini here right now, but so long as the console, or the handheld PC, I should say, has the hardware chops to play a game, that's it. That's the only gateway to entry. So long as you could play a third-party game on that hardware and it can handle it, which many of them can handle a lot of AAA games now, that's it. You don't have to port bag. You don't have to wait for it to... It's not like GPD Win is a console platform or Steam Deck is a console platform. It kind of is, but you get my point. So long as the game is capable of running on there, or if it's also Steam Deck verified or doesn't have some kernel-based anti-cheat system, you could play any game you want to on it, especially with the new hardware that's more powerful than the Steam Deck. You could play Battlefield 6 on the go. You could play Call of Duty on the go. Trust me, I have, and it works very well. Are you playing Battlefield 6 or Call of Duty on the Switch 2, at least as of now? Gotta beg for those ports. Gotta wait for those ports. So I don't think this time around that the Switch 2 is going to have the third-party chops that the original Switch had, because there's many other options to play those third-party games. Now, I know what a lot of people are going to say to me, and I hear this every single time with a Nintendo console.
Rich, no one buys a Nintendo console for third-party games. What are you talking about?
I'm old as crap. And yes, they absolutely did. Here, take a look. You noticing a pattern there? It's almost like the consoles from Nintendo that didn't have the third-party support suffered and didn't sell as well. It's almost like you need to have good first-party and third-party games coming to your platform. It's almost like history has proven that.
That guy's gay. Thank you.
So that's where I'm very interested to see what happens with the Switch 2. I know it's selling very well now, and I'm not going to take away from its numbers. It's very successful at the moment, and Nintendo should be proud of what the product is doing. Granted, their policies suck with it, but that's a different story that I've gone into before. But 2 years from now, what's going to happen when people realize that, oh man, I want to play this third-party game. You know, I love Nintendo's first-party games, but I want to play this and I want to play that. And they may have a Switch 2 and love the Switch 2, but Nintendo may lose out on that licensing revenue from the third-party games because no one gives a crap to buy them on there because they already played those third-party games coming to the Switch 2 on other platforms that are as affordable, if not sometimes cheaper. And then in turn, if third-party games don't sell continuously and continue not to sell on the Switch 2, will the Switch 2 just lose the third-party support? Which in turn, even though there's other ways to play those third-party games on the go, like I said, cheaper, will that turn people off from buying the Switch 2 because they have to wait for the third-party games? And then on top of it, like I said, or I think I said, if I didn't, I'm saying it now, third-party developers may be like, yeah, our games aren't selling on the Switch 2. I don't care how big the platform is and how big the install base is. If 1% of the install base, I'm exaggerating, is buying our games, it's not worth it to develop them because we're not making the money back on them. So it's interesting, man. Times are much different than it was in 2017 when the first Switch launched. And it'll be interesting to see how the Switch 2 does in the long term because, like it or not, Nintendo is in very uncharted territory with how the gaming industry is right now, and it'll be interesting to see how the Switch 2 does years down the line. This is Rich Tomorrow signing out. Subscribe to my ASMR channel. Come to my stream this Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Halloween stream, and I will see you all in the next video.